Hey everyone, this is Nathan Allen. I am the Rankings Project Manager, Editor at Poets&Quants. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And when you're watching this, we're doing this live, but also it'll be up later. So I'm here today to talk to you about our entrepreneurship ranking. It's our newest ranking. We've only been doing it for 3 years now. We released it today. And so this is the third year that we've done it, and just here to talk to you a little bit about the background of it, the methodology, the actual results, and then we have two people from representing the school that ended up on top this year. So first, a bit of background about the ranking. As I said, we've been doing it for 3 years. We've switched up the methodology a little bit each year. The first year wasn't a significant change, but this year we added 6 data points, so up to 16. I won't get too much in the weeds in it. It's on our site if you want to check it out. If you want to go to our site right now, the rankings are there in their entirety. Our full methodology is there, and then all the data that we use to actually produce the rankings is also there. You can go through it all, crunch the numbers yourself. But I'll talk about the actual results now. So we ranked 38 schools this year. Down from 50 last year, but up from 27, 28 the first year we did it. We had more schools than ever participate this year, handing over data. Of the 38 schools, 29 willingly gave us data. The other 9, we went out and grabbed that data ourselves, gave the schools a chance to take a look at it, and then put this together. So here are, I'm going to go top 10 down to 1 in descending order. And then whenever we get to 1, I'll introduce that school and the 2 people who are going to be joining us on this call. Then we'll spend the rest of the time talking about the rankings and talking about what's going on in entrepreneurship at the school. So let's start. Number 10, making a huge jump, one of the biggest jumps that we had this year. And that is the Rutgers Business School. Jumped 14 spots from last year, from 24th up to 10th this year. So congrats to Rutgers. That's a big deal. Up next at number 9 is the City University of London, newly named the Bayes School. Also big moves, up 8 spots from 17 to 9 this year. Up next, number 8, I think one of the school's most infamous for entrepreneurship, the Stanford Graduate School of Business, right in the middle of Silicon Valley. 4th place, they dropped a few spots, but still holding strong. Sorry, dropped 4 spots into 8th place, still holding strong there. Up next, number 7, University of Michigan, Ross School of Business, also slid about 4 spots down to 7th. And then number 6, another school that I think a lot of people associate entrepreneurship with in general, Harvard Business School, slipped 1 spot from 5th to 6th this year. And then up next, we have our next international business school outside of the US, where we're based, IE Business School, based in Spain. At number 5, they moved up 3 spots from last year. Number 4, we have the other Spanish school, Spain-based school, ESADE, number 4, moving up from 7th to 4th. And then the other school with really big jump this year that I think is getting a lot of interest and recognition in terms of entrepreneurship these days is the Rice University Jones Graduate School, down in Houston, moving up 12 spots into the 3rd spot. And so it leaves us the last 2 spots. These 2 spots were exactly the same as last year. No movement between these 2 schools. I think any way you slice the data, these 2 schools are going to be at the top of most entrepreneurship rankings. Ours for sure, obviously, but then others as well. Number 2, Babson College outside of Boston. Entrepreneurship baked into its DNA from the get-go. Really puts a lot of emphasis on that. And then number 1 school, continues to surprise us a little bit, I think. And the 2 people we have on this call will beg to differ because they've been around it for a while, but 3 years in a row of a ranking is a big deal, no matter what. especially a ranking that has had its methodology shifted around a little bit. This year, we went from 10 data points to 16. And I thought personally that there would be some mix up top. There wasn't. Washington University in St. Louis, Olin Business School did it again, 3 years in a row on top. So I've got a couple of people here. I'll let them turn on their cameras and unmute themselves. But we've got Mark Taylor, who's the dean of the school. And we've got Doug Vilhard, who is St. Louis, been around St. Louis for maybe his entire life. He can correct me if he's wrong, really long time. He's been in the entrepreneurship community there, has launched some businesses, and for the past couple of years has helped lead the entrepreneurship program at Olin. Welcome and good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning. Good to see you, Nathan. Great to be here.
We're doing great. We're excited.
Yep. So I've got a lot of things I could talk to you about. Let's keep it basic. 3 years in a row. It's a big deal. Obviously, as I've said, how is this momentum continuing to keep going?
Well, thanks, Nathan. Well, clearly we are delighted to be named the number one in this space 3 years in a row, particularly as you say, because the methodology shifted around, right? So we've got kind of consistency, like anywhere you look at it. We're coming out as very, very strong in this area among, I should say, really, really strong international field. So we are delighted. We're impressed by many of our competitors, and we're certainly delighted to get this ranking from Poets&Quants once again this year. We have been, however, this is something that is entrepreneurship really is kind of baked into our DNA, to use your phrase, right? And we've also been apart from it being something that's I think is kind of natural to the school, we've also actually been consciously building quite a strong head of steam in this area for well over a decade, really, since around at least since 2008, when we hired our first instructor dedicated to entrepreneurship. Our strategic plan explicitly names entrepreneurship among our 4 pillars of excellence, right? It is something that we embed in all our curriculum, right? So it's not just, we don't just have, we do have courses specifically dedicated or programs dedicated to entrepreneurship, as we'll talk about. But really, principles of entrepreneurship are really part of everything we teach to some extent, right? And we think about intrapreneurship as well as entrepreneurship. But entrepreneurship is a kind of an idea of being opportunistic in a very, very positive way, of taking controlled risks and being creative. And we try and inculcate that into our curricula, and we attract students that do that, right? I mean, that's what we teach students to do, is to fall in love with problems, right? Fall in love with you start by getting them actually experientially working with startups, thinking about what problems our clients have, and then tackling them, right? And of course, we always try and continue to practice what we teach, as it were. We talk about innovation. So every year we ask, and Doug has been amazing in this space, how can we improve? How can we innovate, right? And then we actually think hard how to do that. This year, for example, we're introducing a new accelerator course, which Doug will perhaps say a little bit about, or the league, and also 2 new innovation courses with partnership with our world-class medical school here at Rushmore, and another one in partnership with the engineering school, right? So we don't rest on our laurels. Even though we're ranked number 1 3 years in a row, we'll be thinking how we can innovate and push forward the program even stronger next year, because we know the competition's out there, right?
Everyone's trying to do a bunch of stuff in the space right now, putting a ton of resources into it. So yeah, it's definitely a hot spot right now. Doug, anything you want to add to that question before we move to the next one?
Yeah, sure. I'll just say that it's a special place. There's the entrepreneurial spirit is everywhere you turn at Olin, and also in St. Louis, and also in our alumni in the United States and across the world. So Nathan, it's just there's just a strong foundation, in this kind of thinking. And as a result, it's really fun to be here and to teach this stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I can speak from personal experience. I lived in St. Louis between 2006 and 2009, and then was still in the state of Missouri until about 2012, and was up in the WashU area in the Central West End district, and then went back to visit you all the first year that you won. And what has happened to the city of St. Louis with the Cortex district, which I know you all played a big part in, the T-Rex space, which the professor that Mark mentioned, Cliff Holcamp at the beginning, who really got entrepreneurship going at WashU, the Olin Business School specifically, runs the T-Rex incubator space, or did at the time. It's a totally different city, totally transformed, and it's all around entrepreneurship, which I think a lot of people, especially from the coasts, don't necessarily realize. So it's a cool spot. So it's kind of in line with that. You know, what's new, both at WashU, the Olin Business School, and then also kind of in the broader St. Louis region. What's new? What updates and changes, offerings have you all made or are going to make in terms of entrepreneurship?
Well, kind of changes we're thinking about this year as we have a program, Innovation for Healthcare. We have Innovation Defense, and classes on acquisition entrepreneurship, for example. And we also, again, we're continuing things that we do really well, right? We have a course of partner students with St. Louis area startups, with extended consulting engagements, and that we've expanded that program from St. Louis to San Francisco, to New York, and also internationally. I should also say that you know, your ranking does make a difference. It's a virtuous cycle. I'd say your ranking really has shone light on the work we're doing, and we've been able to attract further, you know, innovative, ambitious students with great ideas. We're also launching, and this, like, I asked Doug to say a little bit about this. We're launching an accelerator aimed at extraordinary students with ideas in the digital, the tech space, and we're providing coaching from our what we call our Mount Rushmore, right? Our absolutely outstanding, successful WashU graduates in the field to mentor those students. So, Doug, can you tell us a little bit about this new innovation?
Yeah, I can. You know, Nathan, it's really fun that we not only do we have all these students interested in entrepreneurship, but you can imagine with that volume, we would also have some exceptional ones too that are ready to really launch companies, especially in the digital tech space. And our alumni have been very successful too. We've had a couple companies go public now recently, both in St. Louis and amongst our alumni. So what we did, that there's a term in our field kind of called unicorn, if you will. Sometimes it's overused, but these unicorns have billion-dollar valuations. So what we've been able to do now is, or what we'll be able to do starting this spring, is pair our most promising students with our unicorn alumni, if you will, and put them together. Not just to coach these students through their ideas, but also to set up opportunities for them to pitch real angel investors and VCs at the end. So I think it's going to be a very unique accelerator in that it draws on all of our strengths and also of our alumni, and focused on our most elite of students. So we're very excited about the prospect of this.
Super cool. Yeah. And, you know, speaking, Doug, I know that mentioning the talents and, you know, the recognition that's come from our ranking and our coverage has helped lead to an influx of talent for you all. But, you know, I'm wondering, St. Louis still feels like maybe to a lot of people, you know, not Silicon Valley, or not Boston, Cambridge, maybe not even like Texas that's blowing up quite a bit now. So what would you all say that makes your program unique, you know, to the MBA applicant who really wants to do some sort of entrepreneurship, but is trying to decide where to narrow down, where to apply, or where to potentially go to? What are some things that make you all stand out versus some of the others around the country and world?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm most proud of St. Louis, and I am a lifelong St. Louis, and then those are all the Cardinals Hall of Fame baseball sign there and such like that. But it's just this really neat thing about St. Louis. We're big enough to matter, but we're small enough. We're small enough that you can really come into our ecosystem and make a difference quickly and in a big way. And now that, for example, we had two companies go public here recently, Benson Hill and Nerdy. Just recently out of St. Louis, Nerdy started out as Varsity Tutors, which Chuck Cohn, who started that company, talks often how he was in a introduction to entrepreneurship class at WashU when he originally came up with the idea. So it's been fun having him on the circuit talking about the success of his company and mentioning the origin. So I just think it's one of those really special places that honestly needs to learn how to tout itself a little more. And maybe this triple ranking will help us to continue to have the courage to do that. But this region is making tremendous investment in the startup community the last 10 years. And Nathan, takes a little while for that to pay off. And it's starting to happen right now. And you're going to be seeing a lot more out of St. Louis and Olin as a result.
It's not the Missouri way to really tout yourself. The show me state's not about it. I can say as someone who was born and raised in the state as well. But for the outside perspective, Dean Taylor, what do you think? You joined the school, oh gosh, you'll have to correct 4 or 5 years ago now. 5 years, all right. So from the outside perspective, what do you think makes St. Louis, WashU, Olin different from the other schools out there in terms of entrepreneurship?
Well, I think this idea of, it's a kind of, as you say, there is an attitude, if you like, it's a show me state, but it's also, let's do it, right? There is a proactive kind of culture here, I think. And to some extent in the region, but certainly within the business school. And also being experiential, right? Our students all do consulting projects, actually real world projects with companies, with startups, actually thinking about what it is that drives innovation and entrepreneurship. But the region here, as I say, as Doug said, it's something where we're not used to trumpeting our own successes, but we, in all humility, the region is doing very, very strongly. And then we have these business incubators in the infrastructure here, and Cortex and T-Rex right here in St. Louis, tech incubators. The regions, there are Arch grants. There's a program really for awarding grants to startups willing to operate from St. Louis to keep innovation in the area. I think something like 3 companies by Olin alums actually received grants to do that this year. So yeah, there's it's part of the, you're right. I mean, perhaps internationally, I'm never surprised, right? It's never all right. I'm never shocked. Sometimes I'm surprised by the innovation, the creativity in St. Louis. I'm never shocked by it. What do you think, Doug?
Yeah, it's a special place, and right at the middle of it is WashU, because the talent that we've assembled here, now mixed with this really exciting ecosystem, not to mention all of the capital we have now, venture capital firms and such in the area, is really special. And we greatly enjoy, Olin does our partnership with the Scandalaris Center on campus too, and what they do to help us tie into the medical school and the engineering school and the arts and sciences and even law and et cetera. So it's just really neat, Nathan, how it's all coming together right now. So it's really fun.
Right. And before we move on, one of the areas, so the heaviest weighted, there's 2 areas that we weight the heaviest in the methodology and have from the get-go. And one of those areas you all have led each year, and that's percentage of students who are launching a business within 3 months of graduation. So in terms of the students who have ideas, maybe they've launched a couple businesses before, they're looking for the MBA to kind of just push them over the edge. What are some of the touch points throughout the program you offer for the people who know that they want to launch, they want to be founders? What do you all have that you think is unique to WashU?
Well, I think I think one of the things that we're most proud of is almost on day one, especially with our global immersion program, these students really get to know each other. And, you know, I've owned companies and invested in companies and sold companies for a long time. And I can tell you how important the team is. So right off the bat, they really get to meet each other. And because they're entrepreneurial, they start kicking ideas around. So when I get them right after that, there's lots of things buzzing and lots of people working together. And then our curriculum is set up to take them from the idea to the pitch, to customer discovery, and now with the accelerator to actually asking for money. So we're just sort of taking them as they come in. And frankly, I don't know if we have some kind of, well, time will tell if we have some kind of unicorn factory here, but that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make more of them. And, you know, and it just starts from all the strategies that the dean has put in place to attract these really bright students, and mixing the global aspect of what we do with the entrepreneurial and experiential aspects. And it's just really special, Dean. I got to give you credit for what you pulled off since you've been here. Thanks for letting me be a part of it. It's fun.
You're a key part, Doug. I think Doug mentioned the global immersion. That's an interesting aspect, as you know, of our MBA, where students come straight in, and then they spend a week or so in Washington, D.C. at the Brookings Institution, learning about international business, international politics. And then they embark on this international trek, right, to usually 2 continents. In the past, we've done Spain and China and France. And as Doug said, their students are actually thrown together, but they're also doing consulting projects, right? So there's classwork in those locations, but this isn't just it isn't just sort of academic tourism. What you can see in the class in Spain, you can see in the class here. The point is they go out and they do consulting projects, right? Real world projects in teams, within the first few weeks of being on an MBA program. And some people might say, well, isn't that a bit early to be doing consulting? Shouldn't you get some classwork behind you first? We believe that actually putting students in that problem-solving environment with real-world companies immediately, and also in the international environment, and bringing the students together, it does seem to create it's one way of getting the students to bond together and to get that creativity kicking off right from the get-go. So that's one element. And then as we've just alluded to, experiential learning, continuing that real-world experience of students with companies, with real-world problems, and thinking about entrepreneurship through all our programs, not just in explicitly the entrepreneurship courses, right? So it is really part and parcel of what we do here.
Great. So I think the remaining time that we have, I'm going to just take it out a little bit and talk about business school and entrepreneurship kind of more in general. So let's start with, the biggest thing that has been impacting everything for going on 2 years now, the pandemic. How's the pandemic shifted, if at all, the way you all are approaching entrepreneurship and teaching it?
Yeah, maybe I'll start with that. It's been great. It's been great. And that's a terrible thing to say for what it's done sometimes to the economy and to our families and the disease and such. But from an innovative standpoint, it's been great. And there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, students are very acutely aware of problems that are going on in the world, and disruption and opportunities that are going on. And that is a ripe pool for new and innovating things to come out of. And then the second thing is, just like we're doing today, where it's just natural for us to hop on these digital calls now. And what that has done is that has opened up our entire alumni database to support our students, from industry mentor standpoints to judging contests to taking pitches to mentoring. And when I first got at Olin, when I first got here right before the pandemic, sometimes I would bring in guest speakers over video, and sometimes I would get some feedback. Well, I wish they were in person, And now that the pandemic's going on, the students are like, keep bringing in these exciting people from anywhere. We want to hear from them. It just really has reduced the friction. So, Dean, I think there might be some other areas too, wider areas, but those are some things that have really helped to my program.
Sure. Thanks, Doug. I mean, I think The way at the school we thought our way through the crisis, and I think I may have mentioned it to you before, Nathan, is we have decided we're having three horizons. Right, the first horizon when the crisis struck, and it was, how do we deliver our academic mission in short order, make sure these students graduate, make sure they get the courses right that they need and they deserve. And the second horizon was when we realized that the pandemic wasn't going away anytime quickly. And therefore we had to raise our game in a kind of protracted fashion over a couple of years. And that involved bringing in digital hybrid technology. Fortunately, the school had invested heavily. We created a really world-class Centre for Digital Education just about a year before the pandemic struck, which was pretty good timing. And so we are second to none in the world in terms of the team and the infrastructure and the equipment we have in digital education. We're able to leverage that. And then the third horizon is really looking at what this new world's going to look like as we start to emerge from the crisis. And there's no doubt that the world has changed, right? The way people think about, well, certainly in terms of the acceptance and use of digital technology, like that we're connecting right now, in terms of how leadership it needs to change in some sense to incorporate that. We're going to, part of the innovation in the school in general is that we will launch an online MBA next year. We hadn't planned to do that before the crisis, but our online MBA will actually, it won't just be our MBA online, it'll be a different product from our globally immersive full-time MBA. We'll actually think about what it is in this digital landscape that drives leadership, what it means to be a leader in this new third horizon, right? So we'll actually, everything we do in that new online program, will think how you're digitally enabling your company, how you're using technology, how it's changed the workspace, right? And then coming back to entrepreneurship, it's all about innovation. We talked about earlier on, right? Innovate. What is entrepreneurship? It's being opportunistic, right? It's about innovating, it's taking controlled risks. And our students and our faculty and our staff have had to innovate in all sorts of unforeseen ways over the past year and a half. And we will continue to do that, right? It is itself a kind of entrepreneurial mindset. And we have, and we mentioned some of the new innovations that we're building into our program going forward.
Great. Yeah, thank you both for that. So we're at about our 30 minutes, but I have to sneak in this last question because it's, if not the most important question, it's definitely top of the list for people who are looking at the MBA and starting a business. And that is, what are the pros and cons to launching a business while you're actually at business school, earning your MBA, versus waiting 5-10 years down the road when you have more social capital, more actual capital? Yep, pros and cons to launching a business school versus waiting a while.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Let me start with that. And we'll see. Have the dean help me, but it's an incredible place to start your company. First of all, you're learning things every day in your classes that are applicable. I was working at my company when I got my MBA, so I would keep two notebooks, one for what I was doing in class, and the other how it applied to my startup ideas. So I think that's a great reason to do it. Second thing is you're meeting all these interesting people that are at life-changing moments, in their life and in their career. So it's just excellent people to partner with. Third, people will take meetings when you say you're a student. So the timing is really good for that. So definitely ideating and figuring out if this company is right for you is a beautiful thing to do in school. In terms of launching it, though, that's more, I think, where the pros and cons come. And when's the right time to do that? And in school, right after school, a couple of years later. But getting an MBA and working on your idea while you're there, there's nothing better. There's nothing better.
Yeah, I guess I would just add, well, I would reinforce what you're saying, I guess, Doug, that really having ideating, having support amongst your peers, amongst the faculty, kicking around ideas, and you can bounce those off. The school will also help in terms of whether we provide funding, either through we have the whole camp awards here at the school, or awards from St. Louis, which will help you provide funding for that initial startup. And of course, just realizing this can be done, right? So we have a unicorn company, Nerdy, formerly Varsity Tutors, was started, $1 billion company was started right here at WashU in a class, right? So it could be you.
Great. Any other final thoughts or things that you think we missed that should be noted before we conclude this?
Well, I think we covered just about everything, we've been number one 3 years in a row. We aim to be number one next year too.
And he just set my directive for the next year. So we're gonna do everything we can to keep creating a really special place for our students and our alumni. And if nothing else, we're having fun. We're really having fun doing it too. At the same time, it's a really special place.
Right. Yep. Rankings aren't everything, but it's fun to be number one. So congrats on that. Congrats on doing it for 3 years in a row. And again, this has been Doug Vilhard, Doug, what's your title? Director of Entrepreneurship?
Academic Director of Entrepreneurship, Professor of Practice. Yep.
Okay, there we go. And then we've got Dean Mark Taylor, who's the Dean of the Olin Business School. Thanks very much for your time, both of you. We appreciate it. We know you're busy. So thanks for that. And my name is Nathan Allen. I'm the rankings project editor for Poets&Quants. These rankings in their entirety are already live on our site, poetsandquants.com. They're the first thing that pops up right now. Go check it out. Go look at the methodology and check out all the data. We put all the data there so you can poke through it all and see which schools do well in which areas. Again, thanks for your time and have a good day, everyone.
Our pleasure. Thank you.